There were indications of it in my dreams because I was having nightmares. I was not at peace with where I was. I didn't feel safe. Especially as a teen, that search became deeper and deeper. I got out my yellow legal pad and I wrote my questions and made an appointment with my mom's minister and went to the church, entered this very luxurious dark green leather and rich brown wood, and it's like, okay. Anyway, so I sat down in the big leather chair right in front of his massive wooden desk. And so I started asking my questions. I said, you know, I've had this experience in my father's church and I'm seeing this in your church. So why the differences? You're using the same book. You both say you're Christians. So why the difference? You know, why do you celebrate Christmas? Why do you eat pork? He gave me some answers, but where he got his answers, I couldn't determine. Was it his own thoughts? Was it the church organization's thoughts, or, you know, something he had learned in theology school? Whatever his answers were, they were insufficient because he didn't open up the book, the Bible, and say, here's the answer. It left me very unsettled. So I let him finish. I left the meeting rather disappointed. And so I stopped going to church and tried to fill my life with other things. Like I said, I was on sports teams and I was studying anyway, and I was interested in, you know, art, drawing and poetry and stuff like that, but it wasn't working. You know, I was still feeling empty. I was still feeling lost. I was still feeling here. I had gone to the church that my mom had chosen, the Baptist church in the town, which was half an hour away from where I went to university. So I went there and I found people inspired by the love of God, especially their appreciation for Jesus was evident. And, you know, their care for one another, their smiling faces, their kind words, their helpful nature. This was all very appealing. And so I thought, okay, let me give that church a try. And so I started going on Sundays to this church, which was on the other side of town. It's a huge church. One of the things I liked about it was that there were no images in the church, but I had always been in a religious environment. When my mother found this church too rigid, she decided not to go anymore. But because I'd been raised in my father's church, there was a very distinct difference. In my father's church, for example, they focused a lot on the first commandment of Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. In my dad's church, they had done a lot of research, and in that research, they found that most of the holidays that are celebrated in America have some sort of paganistic background. Or even there's verses in the Bible that speak against the different aspects of those holidays. For example, in my dad's church, we didn't celebrate Christmas because, first of all, the verses of the Bible indicate that Jesus wasn't born that time of year. So that's not his birthday, December 25th. And second, there's verses in the Bible in Jeremiah indicate that the decoration of the tree was actually a paganistic behavior. They used to celebrate with decorating it with silver and gold and worshiping the spirit in the tree. We're supposed to believe only in God and not worship anything else. And they made that very clear. We didn't even celebrate birthdays. There would be a cake with candles, and you light the candles and you make a wish, but your wishes are supposed to be turned to God, the one who can provide. In my dad's church, we realized that this is like fire worship. So yeah, I had faith, but it wasn't enough. I didn't know the name of my Lord, that is Allah. I didn't know exactly how he wanted me to worship him, but I didn't know it at the time. Time went on and my prayer was continuing. Turns out God was going to send me some help. I had a mutual friend at the university I was going to who had also been going to the student center on campus, and his name was Rome. Rome had a friend, interestingly, was different. He was Turkish and a Muslim, but he decided to come to the church to see what it was like. I knew for sure that Rome was trying to help him become a Christian. What this person's intentions were in coming to the church, I wasn't sure. But when I met him, I was intrigued by something that he did. And that was, we went on a canoe trip, a youth activity for the church. We went on a canoe trip. When we stopped for lunch, he asked which one of the meals didn't have any pork in them. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I still was not eating pork out of my beliefs that I had learned from my father's church. And so I thought, wow, that's interesting. You know, why is he not eating pork? And he said something about, like, it's part of my religion. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. This person turned out to be very helpful in my search, an instrument that God was using to help me. When I encountered this person in 1991. We're talking about 1991. No internet, almost no access to anything about Islam in English. I was blessed with a tiny book that this person had found in our university library, 7 floors of books, and he found this book, Imam Nawawi's 40 Hadith. And this tiny book, it took us 2 nights to read it, because it wasn't just read it and go on. It was something that you read and you have to go, huh. And he started bringing me little brochures from the mosque about the basics of Islam. Interestingly, I found a lot of similarity in these things with the things that I'd learned in my father's church. He brought me another brochure. This one was about a book named the Quran. And this book was only God's words. The words were only His. With the Bible, it's unclear who the authors of the chapters are, whose words are written there, whereas the Quran, the whole thing, is God's words. And I found that very profound. A book that's flawless, a book that's only God's words, and it's promised to be protected till the end of time. Because, by the way, the world's last prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was the one that received it. It can't be his words because he was an illiterate man and had no knowledge of the previous religions. This was pure revelation, and that inspired. It told me who my God was Allah. It told me what religion He had chosen for me. It told me little things about how to live my life in the best way. And that's completely true. That's the difference between wise words and the words of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the Hadith and the verses of the Quran. Because in the Hadith and the Quran, it's completely true. It's fully comprehensive because it is provided to us, this religion and the teachings in it are provided to us by the one who knows everything, the all-knowing. And fortunately, in Christianity, I had learned this name, the all-knowing, but I hadn't been exposed to that knowledge completely until I found Islam. So needless to say, inspired by this knowledge and this ever-increasing knowledge of this way of life that's so complete, it remedies all the world's problems, or it can if it's properly applied. I was so inspired that shortly after that I became